W5FC. BB. I'm going to be starting Skynet here in a couple of minutes. If anybody needs to use this repeater before then, please go ahead. This is N5BB.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 9 p.m.
Good evening. Does anybody need to use a repeater before I begin Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. This is N5BB, Bill. I'll be your net control for this session for the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic. We encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time using a sign break in your call sign. This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from your net control. That would be N5BB. Stations are reminded to identify the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using a W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. And I am monitoring Echolink, so if you make comments over there, I'll be able to see them. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio and video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in the net electronically going to the club website, w5fc.org, and look for tonight's announcement and click on the hot link to check in. We'll acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll still do that. And unfortunately, I am not yet looking at the check-in list. Hold on a second. Let me pull that up. Be right back. Inside BB. Okay. Well, unfortunately, this is last month, so let me look again. Hold on. This is Inside BB. Skynet in progress. I found on a different email address the right list. So, at this time, I see the following people have checked in using the online form. You can find the online form by going to w5fc.org, and near the top of the page, you'll see, near one of the top news items, you'll see the announcement for Skynet, and you click on the hot link to check in. And right now, the following people have checked in. Oh, there we go. K5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi. NT5TM, Tony in Bird City, Dallas. N5LIG, Dale in Dallas. KF5JHA, Chaz with Bob the Cat riding shotgun. In Mesquite and the Milky Way Galaxy. K5JIT, Randy in Corpus Christi. WB5OZL, Brenda in Dallas. AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson. K5MCD, Cody in Dallas. AG5PM, Rich in Rockwall. KF5PGM, Travis in McKinney. W5BLT, Bill in Garland. And she just checked in V5F, Virginia, who's in Fort Worth near a monolith. I think she's waiting to see if Stone Age people start throwing bones in the air again. So she is on near a monolith waiting for interesting things to happen. Okay, so that's who's checked in via the online list. And in a minute, we'll go to RF check-ins and Echolink check-ins. This is N5BB. This is Skynet, run by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. But all amateur radio operators are welcome. You do not need to excuse me. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long, scheduled, structured, and servable parts. I'll go through these very fast. General announcements. Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, National Space Society, recent astronomical discoveries. The discussion topic of the evening by the net control was up, which you can see if you look outside, and there's no clouds. Space exploration and space history, the constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, and that's about it. Again, all amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So let's see. I just gave a moment ago a list of everybody that checked in via the online form. Virginia was the last one. Nobody else has checked in yet on that form. But we will accept check-ins on RF. So are there any short-time check-ins? If there's any short-time check-ins, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is N5BB Skynet. Starting off slow, nothing heard. Okay, do we have any general RF check-ins? Any RF check-ins? If so, please come now with your call sign, your name, and your location. This is Skynet. RF check-ins, go ahead.
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob, Farmers Branch, Texas.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Limaville, Farmers Branch.
Yes, Dave. This is K5JDW, John and Compel.
Cal. Let's see. I recognize Jacob, KG5UFR, Gus, W5GUS, Bill, K5ZBL, and John, K5JDW. Do we have any other RF check-ins for Skynet? If so, please come down. Quite a few check-ins over on the web form, so maybe we're not going to get as many this evening on RF. Do we have anybody wanting to check in via Echolink? Let me look at the Echolink list. Let's see, NT5TM, Tony already checked in on the web. N5LIG, Dale already checked in on the web form. Tom, K5ICX, already checked in on the web form. Brenda, already checked in on the web form. And Chaz with Bob the Cat on the side, also checked in on the web form. So nobody new on Echolink. So any remaining check-ins via any mode for Skynet, please come now. This is N5BB, Net Control. Do we have any general announcements for the net? This can be things about amateur radio, astronomy, space, or something of general interest to licensed hands. If so, please come now with your call sign only.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
Go ahead, Tony, and E5TM. This is N5BB. Go ahead with your announcements or news.
Thank you, Bill. First, I'd like to warn everybody, tonight's Afterglow movie discussion will focus on the movie Mission Stardust from 1967. We'll be discussing this movie starting 10:35 p.m. local time tonight. If you could follow the plot of this masterpiece, or even if you couldn't, please join us so that we can properly beat this movie back into the stardust from which it came. Now, on a more fun note, well, I don't know if it's more fun, but more coherent note, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air will take place tomorrow at 7 p.m. local time, and the Dallas Races Training Net will take place tomorrow on this repeater at 8 p.m. local time. The meeting on the air is open to everyone who'd like to share what's been going on in their ham world. The Races Net is open for everyone to listen, but only Races stations can check in. This Monday is a first Monday, and that means it's time for ham fixins. Please don't forget to eat before the net, or else you'll regret it. It's going to be cold, so hopefully we'll be warming ourselves up in the kitchen and have some good news to share this Monday evening. Tuesday, January 7th, will be the next Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting. The board meeting is at 6 p.m., the general meeting is at 7 p.m. Both are free and open to the public, and both take place in the third floor community room of the Dallas Medical Center. Our program will be by Jim Eatman, KG5WAW, on building and testing balance. That should be interesting. I hope you can join us. More details at w5fc.org. Anyway, thank you for listening, NT5TM.
Thank you, Tony. Does anybody have questions or comments about Tony's news items? Or do we have any additional news items? This is N5BB. Skynet. Remind everybody that the Countdown's Hamfest is coming up in 2 weeks. It'll be on January 17th, Friday afternoon, and January the 18th, Saturday. That's a week before Winter Field Day on January the 25th. So a lot of different activities here coming up in January. Okay. One last try. Any additional check-ins before we continue with the net? Let's see. We have nobody else on the web form or Echolink. So anybody else want to check into Skynet? Please come now. This is N5BB, Net Controller.
This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, James Carrollton.
Right, recognize KG5WVL James. Any other stations that want to check in?
This is Kilo India 5 Zulu Oscar Echo Tommy from Bald Springs.
That's Tommy, KF5ZOE. Hello, Tommy. Anybody else? Any other check-ins? Let's talk about satellite, AMSAT nets. Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. There is a local net on this repeater, so you can check into the net here locally. There's also a national AMSAT net. I've never used it since we have a local net, but it also meets at the same time on Echolink. The local net here on this repeater will normally be on Tuesday, but will not have it this coming Tuesday because it is Dallas Club meeting night, so we'll be skipping it. But there is a net, a similar net on Wednesday evening of every week at 9 p.m. on the Arlington 147.140 megahertz repeater, PL 110.9 positive offset, if you're interested in using satellites. There's a lot of nets on Mondays at 7 p.m. As Tony said, we have Ham Fixings net this coming Monday at 7 p.m. Later in the month, we'll have different things happening on Monday nets. And then we will have, of course, next Saturday, TechNet at 7 p.m. And we always have on Saturday evening Skynet that you're listening to now from 9 p.m. till 10:30 p.m. And the Afterglow movie starting at 10:30. And Tom, K5ICX, do you want to read your very accurate description of the Afterglow movie this evening? K5ICX and 5BB.
Well, thank you, Bill. Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. Here we go for tonight's wonderful Afterglow movie net. The reviews were in, and director Primo Zeligo, a man with a supervillain name, had deliberately caused riots at his movie premieres worldwide. It was obvious his skills as a director were overrated, but his abilities to create instant pandemonium of his cinematic bombs did indeed give him supervillain street cred. Realizing he had newfound power over others, Zeglio bought an all-white leisure suit with matching white buttons and carried a lovely matching super tabby cat, custom chosen to accompany him to all the premieres. He could also use the cat as facial camouflage when mayhem erupted in the theater. He'd simply wear the cat like a hat and escape unscathed as the theater burned. It became clear he could use his indoor supervillain voice when calling selected theater owners and telling them something awful is coming to their little insignificant theater. The plot, such as it was, involved robots, scantily clad spacewomen, and wobbly outer space not-so-special effects. Join us as we view another robot-on-robot lunar adventure, Mission Stardust from 1967, tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, Tom, I'll remind everybody that there is always some truth in Tom's descriptions of the movies. There's some truth. By the way, the women are fully clad, except there are moderately short skirts on the two nurses. But the space alien, she's got a full bodysuit on. But it is a bodysuit. Okay, with interesting patches on the first bodysuit she wears. Okay, may have confused Tom. Those patches on her chest. Okay, that's it. So that's the Afterglow net this evening. And every day there is a National Traffic Net, training net, every evening on this repeater at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. The only exception is on the club meeting night this coming Tuesday evening, when the net will be moved to the Irving 7.2 repeater. Every evening at 9:30 p.m., there's the late traffic net on the Irving 146.72 megahertz repeater, which is working fine. I will make a comment. If anybody is trying to use one of the two Irving Amateur Radio Club 440 repeaters, the 442.375 repeater is working perfectly well. But the 442.675 repeater mysteriously died recently. We don't know why. We haven't had a chance to look at it, but it's not working. But all the other Irving repeaters, the 220 repeater, the 2-meter repeater, and the 442.375 are all working great, as well as the Echolink on the Irving. Okay, so that's everything about the traffic net, and that's what's going on with regards to nets on this repeater. This is N5BB. This is Skynet, and I'm looking for additional check-ins. I see none other on Echolink. I would like a check-in on the web form Clay in Mesquite in 5OF. Hello, Clay. Do we have any other check-ins to to Echolink before we move ahead. This is N5BB. Nothing heard. Next, we're going to go to the snowbird that just came back from snowy Ohio. Chaz, KF5JHA, tell us about the Texas Astronomical... Excuse me, I'm tongue-tied this evening. Tell us about the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Thank you, Bill. I'll give you some time to take that string off your tongue. You said you were tongue-tied. Yeah, I just got back from Ohio, and Central Ohio had 3 inches of snow on Friday morning. I get to remove from my car before I left. They're expecting a foot of snow between tomorrow and Monday, so that's interesting. Winter storm warning. I'm supposed to talk about Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. Okay, master slide number 1, please. He's already got it up. I'm watching it on YouTube as well. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on January 24th, 2025. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is task member Max Cornell. His topic is going to be orbital light pollution. He's pretty familiar with that stuff that's floating over our heads, and I've captured some of them on film, well, I should say on digital form. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, on the first Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, stargazing is held at Fairview. Last time I looked outside, it's been cloudy all day. I don't think we have any stargazing tonight. So, you can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JJ, back to our net control, N5BB.
Thank you, Chaz. Okay, do we have any additional check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. So we're going to talk about the National Space Society. This is Bill, N5BB. I happen to be the Vice President and Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. You can reach me at space@byrom.net. That's SPACE@BYROM.net. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, which is a non-profit group based in the U.S., interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. The big event each year is the National Space Society International Space Development Forum. That's ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida on June the 19th to 22nd, 2025. That's June the 19th to 22nd. You can sign up now for ISDC. If you're a member of the national group, the National Space Society main group, you get a discount. Also, if you sign up early or you're a senior, you also get discounts to ISDC. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. Meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next meeting will be on Sunday afternoon, January the 12th. Our speaker will be Ken Ruffin, who is the president of the North Texas chapter. He'll make a presentation about the state of human space activities at the start of 2025. So Space 2025. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact N5BB if you'd like to attend online, and I will send you the link so you can sign up to participate. This is N5BB. But there's more. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, which is on Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend. You do not need to be a member of any group, and discuss human activities in space with us. Our last such event was held on December the 27th, Friday, and we had 9 attendees. The next Space Rendezvous event will be held on Friday, January 31st. And I will probably not be there because I'll be recovering from a knee operation a couple of days before that. Our local National Space Society chapter
IP address 192.168.50.4 192.168.50.6
by extremely compact objects such as neutron stars and possibly black holes. Those fleeting fireworks last for just a thousandth of a second and can carry an enormous amount of energy, enough to briefly outshine entire galaxies. Since the first fast radio burst, FRB, was discovered in 2007, astronomers have detected thousands of FRBs whose locations range from within our own galaxy to as far as 8 billion light years away. Exactly how these cosmic radio flares are launched is a highly contested unknown. Now, astronomers at MIT have pinned down the origins of at least one fast radio burst using a novel technique that could do the same for other FRBs. In their new study appearing in the journal Nature, the team focused on FRB 20221022A, a previously discovered fast radio burst that was detected from a galaxy about 200 million light years away. The team zeroed in further to determine the precise location of the radio signal by analyzing its scintillation, similar to how stars twinkle in the night sky. The scientists studied changes in the FRB's brightness and determined that the burst must have originated from the immediate vicinity of its source rather than much further out, as some models have predicted. The team estimates that FRB 20221022A exploded from a region that is extremely close to a rotating neutron star, 10,000 kilometers away at most. That's less than the distance between New York and Singapore. At such close range, the burst likely emerged from the neutron star's magnetosphere, a highly magnetic region immediately surrounded the ultra-compact star. The team's findings provide the first conclusive evidence that a fast radio burst can originate from the magnetosphere, the highly magnetic environment immediately surrounding an extremely compact object. In these environments of neutron stars, the magnetic fields are really at the limits of what the universe can produce, says lead author Kenzie Nemo, a postdoc in MIT's Kavli Institute for Astrophysics and Space Research. Stand by, please.
Node 55518 connected to node 48.
Where was I? There's been a lot of debate about whether this bright radio emission could even escape from that extreme plasma. Around these highly magnetic neutron stars, also known as magnetars, atoms can't exist. They would just get torn apart by the magnetic fields, said Kiyoshi Matsui, associate professor of physics at MIT. The exciting thing here is we find that the energy stored in these magnetic fields close to the source is twisting and reconfiguring such that it can be released as radio waves that we can see halfway across the universe. The study's MIT co-authors include Adam Landman, Cheyenne Andrew, Danielle Natuli, and Caitlin Shin, along with collaborators from multiple institutions. Detectors of fast radio bursts have ramped up in recent years due to the Canadian Hydrogen Intensity Mapping Experiment, called CHIME. The radio telescope array comprises four large stationary receivers, each shaped like a half pipe, that are missions in a range that is highly sensitive to fast radio bursts. Since 2020, CHIME has detected thousands of FRBs from all over the universe. While scientists generally agree that the bursts arrive from extremely compact objects, the exact physics driving the FRBs is unclear. Some models predict that fast radio bursts should come from the turbulent magnetosphere immediately surrounding a compact object, while others predict that the burst should originate much further out as part of a shock wave that propagates away from the central object. To distinguish between the two scenarios and determine where the fast radio bursts arise, the team considers scintillation, the effect that occurs when light from a small bright source such as a star filters through some medium such as a galaxy's gas. As the starlight filters through the gas, it bends in ways that make it appear to a distant observer that the star is twinkling. The smaller or farther away the object is, the more it twinkles. The light from larger or closer objects, such as planets in our own solar system, experience less bending and therefore do not appear to twinkle. The team reasoned that if they could estimate the degree to which an FRB scintillates, they might determine the relative size of the region from where the FRB originated. The smaller the region, the closer in the burst would be to the source, and more likely is to have come from a magnetically turbulent environment. The larger the region, the farther the burst would be, giving support to the idea that FRBs stem from far out shock waves. This article is kind of long, so I'm going to stop there. It's only about two-thirds or half of it. So ScienceDaily.com, you can go read the whole thing if you want. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB Skynet in progress. I don't see any additional check-ins. Would anybody like a check-in? So come now.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4, Mike Foxtrot, India, WB4 4MFI. Ted, Dallas, low power.
Okay, we got you, Ted. WB4MFI. Anybody else like to check in?
Kilo Juliet 5, Hotel X-Ray Sierra. This is Ari in Garland on mobile.
Okay, that last station, your audio's a little weak and you're noisy. KJ5H something. Please give you the suffix to your call phonetically and tell me your name. I think you're in Garland Mobile. But the suffix of your call phonetically and your name, please.
Hotel X-Ray Sierra, Ari in Garland.
Okay, is that Alpha Romeo India, Ari?
Alpha Romeo India Echo.
Very good. We got you, Ari. KJ5HXS. Well, that's a mouthful. Thank you, Ari. Appreciate you checking in. Do we have any other check-ins to Skynet? This is N5BB. Anybody's welcome.
902. Time out.
Okay, next we have the discussion topic of the evening, which will be, do we live in a special part of the universe? This is an article from the news section of Scientific America by Sarah Scholes. According to a tenet scientists call the cosmological principle, our place in space is in no way exceptional, but recent observations could overturn this long-held assumption. Ever since humans started gazing at the heavens through telescopes, we've discovered bit by bit that in celestial terms, we're apparently not so special. Earth was not the center of the universe, it turned out. It wasn't even the center of the solar system. The solar system, unfortunately, is not in the center of the universe either. In fact, there's many other star systems fundamentally like it, held together, making up a galaxy. And wouldn't you know it, the galaxy wasn't special, but is one of many, many, which all had their own solar systems, which also had planets, some of which presumably host their own ensemble of egoistic creatures with an overinflated sense of cosmic importance. This is N5BB. Skynet is in progress. From Dallas, Texas area. This notion of mediocrity, this notion of mediocrity has been baked into cosmology in the form of the cosmological principle. Its gist is that the universe is basically the same everywhere we look, homogenized like milk, made of common materials evenly distributed in every direction. At the top of the cosmic hierarchy, giant groups of galaxies clump into sprawling, matter-rich filaments and sheets around gaping intergalactic voids. But past that, structure seems to peter out. If you could zoom way, way out and look at the universe's big picture, says Alexia Lopez of the University of Central Lancaster in England. The University of Central Lancashire in England. The universe would look really smooth if you zoomed way out. Lopez compares the cosmos with a beach. If you plugged a handful of sand under a microscope, the sand grains would look like the special individuals they are. You could see the different colors, shapes, and sizes of each grain. But if you were to walk across the beach, looking out at the sand dunes, all you would see is the uniform golden beige color. That means Earth or any of the other trillions of planets that must exist, and its tiny corner of the universe, of the cosmos, appear to hold no particular privileged place in comparison to everything else. And this homogeneity is convenient for astronomers because it lets them look at the universe in part as a reliable way of making inferences about the whole. Or in a nameless galaxy billions of light years distance, prevailing conditions should be essentially the same. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress from Dallas. This simplifying ethos applies to everything from understanding how dark matter weighs down galaxy clusters to estimating how common life-friendly conditions might be throughout the cosmos. And it allows astronomers to simplify their mathematical models of the universe's past, as well as their predictions of its future. Everything is based on the idea that the cosmological principle is true, Lopez says. It is also a very vague assumption, so it's really hard to validate. Validation is especially challenging when significant evidence exists to the contrary. And a host of recent observations suggest indeed that the universe could be stranger and have larger variations than cosmologists had so comfortably supposed. If that's the case, humans, and anybody else that might be out there, actually might have a sort of special view of the light years beyond. Not privileged per se, but also not average, and that average would no longer even be a useful concept at sufficiently large scales. Different observers may see slightly different universes, at least at large scales, says Valerio Mara, a professor at the Federal University of Espírito Santo in Brazil, and her research at the Astronomical Observatory of Trieste in Italy. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. Astronomers haven't thrown out the cosmological principle just yet, but they're gathering clues about its potential weaknesses. One approach involves looking for structures so large they challenge cosmic smoothness, even at a hugely wide zoom. Scientists have calculated that anything wider than about 1.2 billion light years would upset the homogeneous cosmic apple cart. And astronomers have found some. Lopez, for instance, had discovered a beast called the Giant Arc, a curve of galaxies strung across some 3.3 billion light years. She's also discovered the Big Ring, a torus of galaxies about 1.3 billion light years across and 4 billion around. The two strangenesses are close together and may themselves be connected into an even larger structure. This is N5BB, Skynet in progress. The study of cosmology itself also gives reason to raise an eyebrow at the cosmological principle. For instance, the light left over from the Big Bang, called the cosmic microwave background, has some mysterious large-scale fluctuations that don't look totally random, notes Dragan Huderer, a cosmologist at the University of Michigan. This was never satisfactorily explained, he says. Some scientists have argued that such potential challenges to the cosmological principle might be explained by another principle, cosmic variance. The statistical uncertainty inherent in astronomers' measurements of the universe. We are always limited by what we can see and therefore always mathematically uncertain about what conclusions we draw from a limited sample. Maybe the variations astronomers saw were simply the result of incompleteness rather than a real reflection of the universe's properties. Perhaps what seems to be an anomalous bump in cosmic smoothness would flatten out when compared with an unobserved chunk of the cosmos adjacent to the volume visible to us. This is in 5dB. Only so big. If you say, I'm going to study the shapes of galaxies, well, lucky you. You have billions and billions of galaxies in the universe. You can address your questions with statistics, and your sample variance will be very small, Hooterer says. On larger scales, you only get a few examples because the observable universe only splits into so many big sections. Mara thought for a while that certain cosmological discrepancies could be a result of cosmic variance. But it's not enough to explain it anymore, according to his and others' calculations. This is in 5dB, Skynet in progress. Still, most cosmic observations hold up against cosmological principle very well. So while scientists have enough information to reasonably question the idea's validity, they aren't at all ready to abandon it. Least of all because no one has a solid alternative scheme to replace it. There's no smoking gun evidence for the violation of the principle, Hooterer says. However, there are some very interesting anomalies. Regardless, it's a hard problem to decipher because of the nature of cosmology. Unlike in some lab experiment that you can do over and over and over again, Hooterer says, you only get one universe. In the story, this is N5BB. Skynet from Dallas is in progress. Do we have any additional check-ins? Nothing additional on Echolink or the web form. Next is time for What's Up? Chaz, what goes on when you go outside and look up? KF5JHA, this is N5BB.
Thank you, Bill. If you go outside and look up right now, it's cloudy. Yeah, we call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all what's going on astronomically over the past couple of weeks and what's going on for the next couple of weeks and maybe beyond. That was slide number 2. Thank you, Slide Master. Slide number 3. We've talked about the prediction of a nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, just verified 2 mornings ago, which it's too faint to be able to see with just your 2 eyes. But when it goes nova, T Corona Borealis can become as bright as the North Star. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location in Mesquite. We'll let you know if this happens. Okay, Slide Master, slide number 4. This image was taken on Saturday, December the 14th, a couple weeks ago, using my ZWO Star. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large that you can use solar eclipse glasses to see them. And in fact, over the last 36 hours, the sun has belched out a couple of three X-class solar flares. So the sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the 11-year solar maximum is going to be until after it's passed. Now, I talked about the solar cycle, let me see, it was 3 or 4 weeks ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. Speaking of the ZWO Star, I took this image of the comet C2023A3T Atlas on December 11th, almost a month ago, while I was on the Brookhaven campus of the Dallas College. It was lots of light in the area, and I still was able to snag it at that time. If it ever clears off the next few days, I'm going to try it again. I didn't try to spot the comet with binoculars, nor even try it with a telescope. It's kind of faint right now. Slide Master, slide number 6, please. December 30th, the moon was at its new phase. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. You may have been able to catch a glimpse of it in the evening sky the last couple of evenings. On January the 6th, the moon's phase is going to be first quarter. On January the 7th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth, at a distance of 370,171 kilometers. Full moon occurs on January the 13th. I want to say December for some reason. On January the 20th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, at a distance of 404,298 kilometers. The third quarter moon is on January the 21st. Slide Master, slide number 7, please. On the night of January the 3rd and 4th, which is really right now, the peak of the quadranted meteor shower could produce as much as 120 meteors in an hour. That could have happened this morning, but it could happen tomorrow morning, so it could be. The best time to observe the meteors is usually the hour before dawn, because that's the side of the Earth that's running into the debris. Now, if you want to get more information about meteors and meteor showers, you can visit the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at AMSmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 8. On January the 5th, the moon and Neptune are in conjunction in the southern evening sky. Now, if you realize Neptune is the furthest planet from the sun, Pluto is considered a dwarf planet. You will need a telescope to observe Neptune. I have a friend, morning before last, was able to spot all the planets in the evening sky, stayed up, I woke up back up early enough in the morning to get Mercury. So all of the planets he saw in a 24-hour period in the sky. Kind of interesting to do in one night, or from sunset to sunrise. Slide Master, slide number 9. On January the 9th, the moon occults the star cluster, the Pleiades, in the evening sky. It's also called M45. You can observe this with just your 2 eyes, but binoculars or telescope will greatly enhance your view. So that evening, on January the 9th, it's only a few nights from now, I hope it's clear so we can look at this spectacular event. You can watch stars get covered and uncovered by the moon. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. January the 10th, the moon and Jupiter are in conjunction in the evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 11. On the evening of January 13th, the moon occults the planet Mars. Again, all you need is just your 2 eyes to be able to do this. Mars will disappear behind the moon at 7:54 and 13 seconds p.m. Central Standard Time, and will reappear at 8:57:25 p.m. Central Standard Time. Those predictions, those times are for the campus of Brookhaven College. So if you live somewhere else, it's going to be as much as several minutes off one way or another. This is KF5 JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 12. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question, or maybe you need a fill on any of the information I've given, or maybe you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. You might be right. If you're an alien from outer space and you have a third eye, can you observe things better with the center eye? Maybe so. I don't know. This is the stuff that you miss if you're not on Echolink. You get all sorts of side comments and stuff. Slide Master, slide number 13. So as the moon waned last week, so do these words of this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, back to our net control, N5BB.
Well, thank you, Chaz. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet, run by the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. I'm saying that this evening because of the weather changes. Tropospheric communication could mean we're heard outside the local area. Do we have any additional check-ins? I do not see any additional ones on Echolink or the web form, but does anybody want to check in to Skynet via any mode of operation? If so, please come now. This is N5BB, Skynet.
Good evening. The time is 10 p.m.
Kilo Oscar 4 Whiskey Charlie X-Ray KO4 WCX Paul in North Carolina.
Oh, Hal, let's see. Kilo Oscar 4 Whiskey something. Please say your suffix phonetically and your name phonetically.
Whiskey Charlie X-Ray. The name is Papa Alpha Uniform Lima.
Okay, was that KO4 WKX? Is that correct, Paul?
It is not Kilo, it is Charlie. Whiskey Charlie X-Ray.
That is my mistake. KO4WCX. Paul in North Carolina. We got you, Paul. Thank you for checking into our little net here. You must be coming in. Are you coming in through All-Star? Is that how you're coming to our net?
Yes, that's correct. All-Star.
Very good. I figured so since I couldn't see you on Echolink. Thank you, Paul. We appreciate it. I know you've been here before, I believe. Okay, any other check-ins via any mode for the Dallas Amateur Radio Club Skynet? Please come now. Okay, now it's time for space exploration and space history. Brenda, WB50ZL, this is N5BB. Take it away.
Thank you, Bill. This is WB50ZL. In space exploration news, first up, Blue Origin test fires New Glenn first stage ahead of inaugural launch. Blue Origin says it's ready for the first launch of its New Glenn rocket after completing a static fire test December 27th, hours after receiving a launch license. The 7 VE-4 engines in the first stage of the New Glenn ignited shortly before 8 p.m. Eastern at Launch Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station in Florida. The engines fired for 24 seconds, Blue Origin said in a statement, including 13 seconds at 100% thrust. The static fire test was the culmination of the test campaign that involved loading propellants into both stages of the launch vehicle and going through space through practice countdowns. The company appeared to outside observers to be preparing to ignite the engine several times earlier in the day, but did not do so. The company did not provide details about the test following progress during the day or during similar tests December 21st that also did not culminate with a static fire. The company said the test campaign demonstrated day-of-launch operations of the rocket and validated vehicle and ground systems before actual launch attempt. The campaign met all objectives and marks the final major test prior to launch, the company stated. The test came hours after the FAA granted a launch license to Blue Origin for New Glenn. The license authorizes the company to carry out New Glenn launches from Cape Canaveral, along with few details about specific trajectories or other conditions for such launches. Next, scientists have discovered a new way oxygen can form in the carbon dioxide-rich atmospheres of worlds beyond our own. Most of the search for life or life signatures on other planets is actually proving that whatever we observe can be generated through means that do not require life. David Benoit, a senior lecturer at molecular physics and astrochemistry at the University of Hull's E.A. Milne Center for Astrophysics, who was not involved in the study, told Space.com. This study shows another pathway to produce molecular oxygen, which was not previously always considered viable. Before the massive rise in atmospheric oxygen on Earth during the Great Oxidation Event, approximately 2.4 billion years ago, when cyanobacteria living in the oceans started producing oxygen through photosynthesis, our planet's primitive atmosphere was dominated by carbon dioxide with only trace elements of oxygen. Scientists have discovered a new way oxygen can form in carbon dioxide-rich atmospheres of worlds beyond our own, challenging assumptions about stand by. Let's see, where was I? Challenging assumptions about how we should search for life on other planets and possibly about the origins of life itself. Most of the search for life or life signatures on other planets is actually proving that whatever we observe can be generated through means that do not require life, said David Benoit, a senior lecturer. I think we read that already. Oh, sorry. These O2 molecules were exclusively produced via abiotic, non-biological processes, writes the team of researchers led by Sean Zitian and Ji Hu at the University of Science and Technology of China. Birthdays. Nancy Curie Gregg, December 29, 1958. She flew on her missions were STS 57, 70, 88, and 109. Barry Butch Wilmore, December 29, 1962. STS 129, expeditions 41 and 42, and Boeing crewed flight test. He is up there now. Maybe he'll come home April 2025. We don't know. But I don't feel sorry for him. He looks like he's having a good time. Daniel Berry, December 30th, 1953, STS 72, 96, and 105. Stephen Smith, December 30th, 1958, STS 68, 82, 103, and 110. Martin J. Fettman, December 31st, 1956, STS 58. Christopher Cassidy, January 4th, 1970, STS 127, Soyuz TMA 08M, Expedition 3536, Soyuz MS-16, Expedition 6263. This week in space history, December 30th, 1930, the first photograph was taken showing the curvature of the Earth The photo was taken from an airplane east of the Andes mountain range in South America. Captain Albert W. Stevens, an officer in the U.S. Army Air Corps, and an aerial photographer took the image flying at an altitude of 21,000 feet over Villa Mercedes, Argentina. The Andes Mountains, 287 miles away, and although taller than the plane's altitude, lay below the sensible horizon. The Earth's curvature explains this phenomenon as described in the diagram accompanying the photograph. The Earth's curvature is also visible laterally in the photograph, although the effect is subtle as the image encompasses only 1/360th of the Earth's circumference. About 5 years later, Captain Stevens took another photo from a high-altitude balloon from over South Dakota and at a then world record altitude of 72,395 feet. Stand by. January 1st, 1801, Ceres was discovered. Ceres, minor planet designation 1 Ceres, is a dwarf planet in the middle main asteroid belt between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. It was the first known asteroid discovered on January 1st, 1801 by Giuseppe Piazzi at Palermo Astronomical Observatory in Sicily and announced it as a new planet. Ceres was later classified as an asteroid and then a dwarf planet, the only one not beyond Neptune's orbit. Ceres' diameter is about a quarter that of the Moon. Its small size means that even at its brightest, it is too dim to be seen by the naked eye except under extremely dark skies. Its apparent magnitude ranges from 6.7 to 9.3, peaking at opposition when it's closest to Earth once every 15 to 16 months synodic period. As a result, its surface features are barely visible even with the most powerful telescopes, and little was known about it until the robotic NASA spacecraft Dawn approached for its orbital mission in 2015. Dawn found Ceres' surface to be a mixture of water ice and hydrated minerals such as carbonates and clay. Gravity data suggests Ceres to be partially differentiated into a muddy ice rock mantle core and a less dense but stronger crust that is almost 30% ice by volume. Although Ceres likely lacks an internal ocean of liquid water, brines still flow through the outer mantle and reach the surface, allowing cryovolcanoes such as Ahuna Mons to form roughly every 50 million years. This makes Ceres the closest known cryovolcanically active body to the Sun. Ceres has an extremely tenuous and transient atmosphere of water vapor vented from localized sources at its surface. Then on December 31st, 2004, was a flyby of Iapetus. Cassini made its first targeted flyby of Iapetus on December 31st, 2004 at a distance of 120 feet, 3,400 kilometers, around the time when the spacecraft was settling in its orbit around Saturn. Cassini did not cross Iapetus' orbit when it flew by and remained inside the Moon's orbit. Cassini's subsequent flybys of Titan would make the spacecraft's orbit smaller, preventing Cassini from flying close to Iapetus for months. A relatively low-density body made up mostly of ice, Iapetus is home to several distinctive and unusual features, such as a striking difference in coloration between its leading hemisphere, which is dark, and its trailing hemisphere, which is bright. That's all I got. Back to net. WB50ZL.
Thank you very much, Brenda. This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. I don't see any additional check-ins, but I'll call. Does anybody want to check in to Skynet? This is N5BB, net control. back to you for Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. KF5JHA, this is N5BB. Go ahead, Mr. Jokester.
Thank you for the title. I appreciate that. Yes, this is Jazz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 14. Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent E. Carolyn, KC5OZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 till May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen over North Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So Ms. Carolyn's constellation is actually two constellations of the week this week. Is Perseus the hero and Camelopardalis. What the heck is a Camelopardalis? Oh, that's a giraffe. Slide Master, slide number 15. The jokes of the week. You don't know the rules of the jokes of the week. You can boo and hiss. I can't hear that. You can applaud or cheer. Yeah, I can't hear that either. You can make comments over on Echo Link. I can see that. Yeah, okay. Or you can just stay silent. It doesn't matter. Okay, so here we go. They're usually related to the constellation of the week, too, by the way. Have you heard of the new color-changing superhero? Yeah, they call him the Human. Oh, come on, that was funny. What do you call a superhero completely made of ice? Just ice. Justice? Okay, well, that was bored. Who is Chaz's favorite comic book hero? The Punster, also known as the Punisher. Oh, those were funny ones. I respect giraffes. They're an animal you can look up to. Why are giraffes so slow to apologize? It takes them a long time to swallow their pride. What do you get when you cross a giraffe and a pig? Bacon and legs. Slide Master, slide number 16. Perseus is the hero in the story involving several other constellations, which include Cetus, the sea monster, Andromeda, the princess, Cassiopeia, the queen, Cepheus, the king, and of course, Pegasus, the flying horse. We've talked about these things in the past. Perseus is the hero. Slide Master, slide number 17. Algol, which is Beta Persei, is the demon star. It's one of the best-known stars in the sky. It's the first eclipsing binary star ever discovered, and one of the first variable stars to be found. Beta Persei is, in fact, a triple star system composed of the primary Beta Persei A, which is eclipsed by Beta Persei B. The apparent magnitude of the system is around 2, but it drops to 3.4 every 2 days, 20 hours and 49 minutes, and stays dim for about 10 hours, which is how long the eclipse lasts. A secondary eclipse occurs when the primary component occults the dimmer star. Algol is also a prototype for a class of stars known as the Algol variables. The Algol system emits X-rays and radio wave flares as well. Algol has an apparent magnitude of I said 2. It is 92.8 light years in distance. It's passed within 9.8 light years of our solar system about 7 million years ago. And its apparent magnitude at that time was minus 2.5, which was much brighter than our current brightest star, Sirius. The next few minima of Algol is going to be January the 4th. That's tonight at 10:42 p.m. That's only about half an hour from now. January the 7th at 7:31 p.m. January the 10th at 4:21 p.m. January the 13th at 1:10 p.m. These are all the midpoints of the minimum. So 5 hours before, 5 hours after is the beginning and ending times of those. Slide Masters, slide number 18, please. New General Catalog number 869 and 884. It's called the double cluster. Best seen in binoculars. These bright open clusters are easily visible to the naked eye as long as you're away from the city lights. As nebula passes patches of light in northern Perseus. NGC 869 is the brighter and the more concentrated of the two. It is about 30 to 35 minutes of arc in diameter and is dominated by two bright orange stars near its center. NGC 884 is slightly larger but more scattered and has a bright star near, well, not quite in the center, a little bit off center. Each of these clusters contains about 100 to 150 stars. Slide Master, slide number 19. Messier object number 34, large, bright, open cluster, easily seen in a viewfinder and is best seen in binoculars, composed of many bright stars and a sprinkling of fainter stars. It is about 40 arc minutes in diameter and moderately concentrated at its center. About 100 stars you can count. It looks like a slightly fainter version of either clusters of the double cluster. Slide Master, slide number 20. M76. This is an interesting planetary nebula. It's composed of two lobes, which given in their own NGC numbers, each one has one, and is commonly known as the Little Dumbbell Nebula. It resembles a smaller version of the famous planetary nebula in Vulpecula. M76 handles magnification well and appears to be rectangular in shape, which is strange. The southwestern lobe, NGC 650, is the brighter of the two and is separated from the fainter lobe by dark lanes of material, a remarkable object to take a look at. Slide Master, slide number 21. Camelopardalis. The giraffe is a relatively modern constellation, having been introduced by the Flemish astronomer in 1612. The name Camelopardalis is Latin for the camel with leopard spots, which loosely describes the giraffe. In fact, the scientific name for the giraffe specifies the giraffe Camelopardalis. I think I pronounced it correct. Slide Master, slide number 22. Beta Camelopardalis is the brightest star in Camelopardalis. Even though it's beta, it's not alpha. Beta is magnitude 4, which shows how dim the stars are in Camelopardalis. Beta is also a double star. It's easy to split at low power. It is easy to split at even 41 power in an 8-inch telescope. The primary star looks white and maybe just a touch of yellow. The companion star looks bluish in color. Two other stars, number 11 and number 12, Camelopardalis, are located near Beta Camelopardalis. The challenge of the double star in 11 and 12 is being able to see and split them with the unaided eye. Camelopardalis 11 is a dim magnitude 5.23, while Camelopardalis 12 is even dimmer at 6.21. You need to be in a very dark location to be able to see them. Keppel and Sander describes Camelopardalis 11 and 12 as forming a wide pair of white and deep yellow stars for binoculars and small telescopes at low power. Slide Master, slide number 23. Kimball's Cascade in NGC 1502. 1502 is an open cluster at one end of Kimball's Cascade. Cascade is a long change of about 20 unassociated stars noticed by Mr. Campbell himself from Alberta, Canada. Kimball told Walter Scott Houston about this asterism and named it Kimball's Cascade in his honor. The name stuck. Kimball's Cascade is one of the objects in the Astronomical League's Binocular Deep Sky Observing Club. Interestingly, NGC 1502 is not in the club, not even as an easy binocular object, and it is an easy binocular object. The cluster NGC 1502 itself is about 45 stars and altogether shines at around magnitude 6, so it is easy to pick up in binoculars and finder scopes. An 8-inch telescope or larger instrument shows all of the cluster down to its faintest components. which include two interesting multiple stars, Struve 484 and Struve 485. Contained within 485 system is SZ Camelopardalis, which is an eclipsing variable star. Slide master, slide number 24. IC is called the Index Catalog. 342 is a nice face-on spiral galaxy. It's long thought to be possibly an outlier of our own local group, according to Burnham's Celestial Handbook and Walter Scott Houston's Deep Sky Wonders. It was never for certain, since this galaxy is near the plane of the Milky Way and obstructed by the dust of our own galaxy, which made distance determination difficult. More recent observations have shown that while it is not part of our local group, it's part of the Coma Sculptor cloud of galaxies, which includes our own local group of galaxies. Similar to M33, IC342 is a fairly large object in overall brightness spread over a relatively large area of the sky, giving it low surface brightness. Therefore, it is more easily noticed in wide-field, short focal length telescopes, like a 16-inch telescope I know. However, once picked up, some structure is visible in most amateur telescopes. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 25. There are a few more Astronomy League observing program objects in the constellation of Perseus, the Hero, and Camelopardalis, the Giraffe. I've given you just a sampling of a few of those objects. The Astronomical League has at last count 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. And so that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Perseus, the Hero, and Camelopardalis, the Giraffe. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal from them for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week we'll take a look at, you've never heard of this one before I'm sure, Taurus the Bull. And this is KF5JHA. Chaz saying goodnight in 73, back to our net control. It's all yours, Bill, in 5BB.
Thank you, Chaz. Do we have any questions, comments, or check-ins? This is N5BB, Skynet progress. See nobody new on Echolink or the web form. Tom, I'll let you make your pick. We've only got a little less than 5 minutes. You want to talk about space launches of the week, and also, if you want to, any of the, what else am I missing here? Visible satellite passages. Whatever you want to talk about, Tom. K5ICX and 5BB, Skynet in progress.
All right, thank you, Bill. Let me just do space launches. Got a couple of ones coming up. The first one is January 5th, Starlink 671. That'll launch from SOC 40 at Cape Canaveral. This will launch another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. There's about one of these every 3 days. A little more than 8 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster will land a drone ship position in the Atlantic Ocean. This just updated, January 6th, New Glenn 1 will launch from Complex 36 at Cape Canaveral. The Blue Origin New Glenn rocket will launch the company's Blue Ring spacecraft, which is capable of both hosting and deploying multiple payloads. Blue Origin will attempt to land the first stage booster on a sea-based landing platform called Jacqueline. Then we have on January 6th also Falcon 9 Starlink 2-11 launch. This from Launch Complex 39A, just next door to the other one at Kennedy Space Center, and will launch the latest batch of V2 mini satellites, which we mentioned earlier. Finally, here's a biggie. January 10th, Starship Flight 7 will launch at 4 p.m. Central Time. This is from Starbase in Boca Chica Beach here in Texas. By the way, I can see the launch plume from my location here. SpaceX will launch its sixth suborbital flight test of its fully integrated Starship rocket, a combination of the ship upper stage S-33 and the Super Heavy B-14. SpaceX plans to catch the Super Heavy booster using chopsticks on the launch tower, but will make final determination on the catch following liftoff and stage separation. This mission will feature first block upgrades for the ship's upper stage. S-33 will perform a landing flip and make a gentle, hopefully, splashdown in the Indian Ocean. And I'll give this last one here. No, I'm not going to give those. Bill, I'm going to send it back to you. There are some good passes of the ISS on January 11th and 12th. And then Tiangong has some good passes on January 10th, 11th, and 12th. You can get that information and all the details for it at heavensabove.com. Back to you, Bill, KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB Skynet in progress. You can actually sign up on a NASA site, and you will get notified via emails in advance of good ISS passes. I'm signed up on them, but I'm not always up on getting up early in the morning to see the morning ones, and sometimes I'm busy during the evening ones, but I'm signed up on the list, so I get them in the email. Okay, one last try. Do we have anybody else that would like to check in?
Operational, and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
N5BB net control. We're nearing the end of the net, looking for last-minute check-ins.
AI 5PI, Alpha India 5, Papa India, just landed.
Yeah, 5PI. I'm glad you landed. What was your name, and are you in DFW or left field?
My name is Rocky in downtown Fort Worth. What I mean by just landed, I actually just turned the radio on and hit scan, and here we stopped.
Well, good, Rocky. We're here every Saturday evening from 9 p.m. until 10:30 with a different net control each week. And starting at 10:30, coming up right now, we've got Afterglow, where we discuss a movie, usually a science fiction movie, but sometimes some other weird movie. You never can tell. Tonight, it's a science fiction movie. So, any other check-ins before I close the net? This is N5BB, net control for Skynet. These up. Hold on. If this web form would just have numbers on it, I could count easier. Hang on here. Be right back. Oh, it does have numbers. Let's see. So it must be 14. From that form and 11 via RF and Echo link. So, success. This evening we had 25 hams participating on the air, Echolink, or some other way. I want to thank each of you who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. Shaking my hand in the air, my fist in the air as I'm saying this. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other Dallas Amateur Radio Club nets. If you're interested, send email to nets@w5fc.org or talk to one of the net controls. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X if you really want to participate on those forums, as well as their audio and video streams, video art, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. That's right, Whiskey5FriedChicken.org is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club website. Until next Saturday night, this is Bill in 5 Bravo Bravo. I'll be closing the net at 10:33 p.m. local time. We're turning the repeater to abnormal amateur use because we have Afterglow movie come up. 73, everybody. Enjoy the evening discovering the universe. K5ICX, this is N5BB. Who's net control for Afterglow this evening, Tom? N5BB clear.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you for doing the net this evening. And yes, I will be net controlled tonight, since I had little to do this evening on the previous net, so I'll be more than happy to step up and do net control for that. And with that, we will come back in about 5 minutes. That's plenty of time to go make yourself some microwave popcorn. Come on back, and we'll be talking about tonight's movie called Mission Stardust from 1967. It is part of the Perry Roden series, which was a youth books that are still being published today. They number in the hundreds. None of them were very good, but this was Mission Stardust based on the story 4321 launch or something like that. I don't know, whatever it was. So come back in about 5 minutes and bring popcorn. We'll see you then. This is KE5ICX.
Great net, everyone. Thanks to make working in the garage a pleasure. And Chaz, I guess you couldn't tell my Camelopardalis joke because it was kind of it was political, I guess. K5JDW.
all. It is now time for the Afterglow Movie Net, and I am KE5ICX. My name is Tom. I am in Corpus Christi, Texas. I'm using All-Star Link so I can get back up to my former home digs of Dallas, Texas. Moved down here about 4 months ago now, and I'm enjoying the much more temperate weather, although it's supposed to get down into the 30s this week, starting tomorrow, I do believe, or maybe Monday. What is today? Today is Saturday, so I think it's Monday. It's supposed to get very cold. So it'll be down in the 30s, but that's okay. I don't mind. I would like to have some cooler temperatures, just for something different. So what is the Afterglow Movie Net? Pretty simple. We watch a predetermined movie that's been selected. Sometimes we watch it together on a Friday evening at around 8 o'clock. Together separately, that is. We queue up whatever the movie is streaming, and then watch it to its conclusion. We make comments and all that. You're welcome to join it. Just let us know, and we will tell you how to do that. The movie this week is called Mission Stardust. Now, I'm going to read to you a little bit about the plot and the casting about the film, where it came from. I was unaware of this thing until just probably last month or so when I put it on the list. But Mission Stardust is a 1967 science fiction film based on early novels of the popular German Perry Rhodan series by K.H. Shearer and Walter Ermsting. Here's the plot. In a quest to find a source of radioactive material more powerful than uranium, Major Perry Rhodan leads a 4-man mission to the moon on the rocket ship Stardust. On the moon, they find a stranded Arcanide spaceship where Commander Thora is trying to save a scientist named Crest along with a crew of robots. He told you there were robots. The Earthmen find that Crest is suffering from leukemia, for which there is a cure available on Earth. Perry and the others take an Arcanine shuttlecraft to Earth to bring back a doctor with a cure. One of the Earth crewmen is a traitor, however, supplying information to a crime lord who is after the radioactive material, but who sees the encounter with the Arcanites as providing an opportunity for an even greater prize. The crime lord arranges to replace the doctor and nurses with his own people upon arriving at the Arcanine ship, they kidnap Thora in a bid to gain Arcanine technology. However, Crest provides Rhodan and Bull with Arcanine technology, which helps them rescue Thora as well as the real doctor, who is able to cure Crest. They soon leave the moon in the Stardust, promising to return with materials the Arcanides need to repair their spaceship. There's a whole cast of people we don't know and never heard of before. The film was released in Rome on August of 1967. With a running time of 95 minutes, it was later released in West Germany in October of '67 under Perry Rhodan SOS Assignment with a 79-minute running time. It was released in Spain as Orbita Mortal with a 92-minute running time. How these things all play out, who the heck knows? And finally, it opened in Los Angeles in October of 1968. Contemporary Review and Variety noted that dubbing the film, stating it was only fair and that the special effects were crude and the color uneven, but the very audaciousness of the mixture keeps the attention. I don't know about that. The review also praised the film's score. I found it irritating, by Anton B. Abgril and Marcello Giobini. Never heard of him. From retrospective reviews, Gary Westphal in his book, The Space Suit Film, A History, 1918 to 1969, noted the film contained shoddy special effects and recalled Saturday afternoon serials more than science fiction films of the 1960s. Westphal referred to the film as one of the era's most reviled genre films. And with that very positive point, I'll tell you how we play this game. What we do is I'm going to take check-ins, and you get a chance to check in. Even if you did not see the movie, you are welcome to check in. That's okay. You may know something about the Perry Rhodan series. I don't know much about it except the name. I would like to know more, just so that I can avoid it, maybe. You can discuss your thoughts about the film after we've reviewed it if you'd like, or you don't have to say anything, just say you're here and listening in. Whatever form of participation, from all in to nothing at all, just let us know you're out there. It's okay. We'll take the check-ins. I'll need to know your call sign, your name, and did you see the film? Yes or no. Then we will go into discussing each round with special effect. We start with plot, followed by acting and characterization, followed by special effects and anything else you want to say about the film. So let's get started. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see our fine film, Mission Stardust? Please start now.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Yes, Tom, I saw this fine movie. So I'm all in with both feet.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas. I saw most of it, but then the brain damage started to get a little too intense.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia. Yes, I saw this.
Whiskey 5, bilateral transference. W5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. Bill. Yes, I saw this. Fine film.
WV5OZL, name is Brenda. Yes, I saw this wonderful movie. And I can't wait to talk about it because I'm so excited.
All right, let me go ahead and get those folks checked in. I've got N5BB Bill. Yep, he saw it. NT5TM Tony. He's in Dallas, by the way. He did see the film. NV5F Virginia. Yes, she saw the film. W5BLT Bilateral Transference. Bill, which he picked up that fine phrase from our last week's film. He saw the movie. WV5OZL Brenda in Dallas. She also saw the film. Additional check-ins, please come now. Anyone over, I don't see anyone on Echolink, but I don't know who might be on All-Star Link. If you're checked in via one of the electronic measures, you're welcome to check in now. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see our film? Okay, well, it may be a short net this evening. We'll find out. I said that last week, or we said that last week. We ended up going the full 90 minutes. So I don't think this is going to happen with this film, but you never know. So we'll go down the list from check-ins, order of check-ins. We'll start with Bill, N5BB. Let her rip, Bill.
Okay, Tom, thank you. This is N5BB. Yes, I saw this fine film. And to tell you the truth, I kind of liked it, which may make some of you mad. So I apologize if I'm maddening you. But I enjoyed looking at it. Was it goofy? Well, yes, of course. Were some things in it silly? Yeah. Were the special effects worse than cheesy? Oh, certainly. But it wasn't completely bad. In other words, there was acting, which you could recognize as real acting in it. there was a plot which I could follow. I understood what was going on. I wasn't confused by the plot really. And I did not fall asleep in the middle of it. And there was even a little bit of music that wasn't completely horrid. But anyway. So some things about the plot of the movie. First, the movie starts with a most amazing Technicolor, artistic, special effect, lava lamp-like, abstract art moving around color blobs, which was kind of neat. It gave you something to kind of get your interest but they put all these long credits at the start, and it gave you something to kind of distract you during all those credits. But it was a 1967 movie, and my golly, that is the right year for the moving color things. It was the peak of the Beatles and lots of other things happening, and man, that was exactly what you would expect to see. I was in middle school when this came out, so I remember that era very well. Although this is the first time I've seen this fine movie. We had the astronauts. Well, number one, talking about the plot, we had the very stereotypical launch sequence things. The launch part of it with the people in the launch room and the officials getting ready to do the launch and everything, that looked to me like it was more from the 50s or the early 60s. I mean, this was 1967. It looked a little bit too military, I don't know, a little bit too, although they were still wearing ties in 67 to the NASA launches. Still, it looked a little bit too kind of oddball. It was kind of interesting that that there was a secret mission that they were doing on the moon, which is kind of interesting. I didn't see any indications of what year this was supposed to be occurring in. You know, obviously sometime in the near future, but not the distant future. So I'm guessing it was supposed to occur in the 70s or 80s or something. We had the astronauts, of which one was an agent of the bad, the guy that had a crime syndicate, a very, very powerful crime syndicate all over the place. And the bad guy, Mr. Arkin, I don't know how you spelled his name. Let me see. Arkin? I don't know how you spelled Arkin. It confused me because the aliens were Arkanites, but the bad guy name was something like Arkin. Maybe somebody picked it up better than I did. Anyway, so again, they were trying to get some kind of metal that was, the density of the metal was described very oddly. It was more dense than lithium or cobalt. Well, if you know anything about the periodic table, cobalt's kind of in the lower middle. These are nothing like uranium and plutonium or even lead, which are much more dense. So I don't know why they compared it to lithium and cobalt. Sounds like whoever did this didn't study chemistry. This is N5BB for identification. Anyway, secret mission to go do that. I don't know why they thought they had to make it secret, but they did. When they had a very big rocket. This looked like a starship, a SpaceX Starship-sized rocket. And they lowered down this big space buggy thing on the side. again, looked like Starship-size mission. And it wasn't totally clear. You kind of assumed this was the United States, but it wasn't totally clear who was doing the launch. Anyway, the other things about the plot, I guess, and what happened, this isn't really special effects, I don't think. The spacesuits were stupid. There was no air tank. There was no power source. The helmets came on and off very easily. They pulled off their gloves, and they looked like they were just thin, regular gloves. So I did not believe the spacesuits. They definitely were not special effects. They were no effects. The aliens and the robots all speak English because they listen to the radio and TV, and they learned it, which seems a little unbelievable to me, but they're aliens from some unknown planet 34 million light years away. And kind of interesting, there were only 2 living aliens that were on the vessel. Chris, or whatever, what is Crest, I guess, and Thora, who Thora was really in charge of running the thing. Crest was like the senior official or something, but Thora did all the work, and she had her robot henchmen. The robots were stupid. All the robots back here in the 40s, 50s, 60s, into the early 70s, they were stupid. They went slowly. They tended to walk with their arms held out. I don't know why they didn't have robots that looked more like, the more recent Sony robots and things. They should look like, if they're going to look humanoid, they need to look like they can move around rapidly and easily, not these lumbering things. Didn't like that. Did you notice that the bad guys communicated with and maybe the good guys, communicated with the spacecraft using at a couple of points, Morse code? I could hear some real Morse code, I think it was gibberish, but I could hear some real Morse code letters being communicated there. You saw the guy with the cans, the earphones on, so they were communicating them, and it looked like the bad astronaut was actually pushing a button with his finger to send the Morse code on the alien spacecraft. How in the world he was able to do that was not explained.
Time out.
How? Send CW. Nobody knows. N5BB. To me, it was very unlikely that you would get aliens that could get our leukemia and whose physiology was nearly identical to humans. They didn't explain that. It made no sense. Many other movies, though, have humanoids, aliens. It's just because it's cheap and easy to do. They don't have to use makeup. They don't have to use anything. I think it's very boring when they do that. Very unlikely. But the aliens are genetically more ancient, even though they're identical to us, and they are, somehow it's said that they're more ancient, but they're more susceptible to leukemia. I didn't understand that at all. Did not understand that. Had eliminated all diseases, but obviously they hadn't eliminated leukemia, so that made no sense. Let's see, this is N5BB. We had the astronauts that were wooing both the nurses, who were both part of the bad cabal, and the Thora, the alien lady. And I don't know. To me, it was very unlikely that an alien woman would fall for their advances so rapidly. But that's the way it is in these bad science fiction movies. So, what else did I see that was interesting in the plot? Somehow they blocked all the Earth radars at once. That's a little bit over the top. There was some kind of East Africa military group and things. At some parts they looked a little colonial, but then there's a black guy that was in charge of them. So this looked like kind of colonial military forces that were, commanded by the local African government or something. The gravity neutralizer, that's not very scientific, and special effects were horrible. The force field, it was fun to watch, but not very scientific. The bad guy looked like somebody out of a bad James Bond movie, or actually one of the Austin Powers movies. Why? He gets off his airplane carrying around his small dog. I'm sorry. Mr. Arkin, or whatever his name was. That was stupid. He was bad, bad, bad. They had a big fist fight. That's also true in some of these bad science fiction movies. Big fist fight. Our two hero astronauts, they were great with fighting with their fist. Of course they were. They were astronauts. I noticed during one of the kind of cart chases, they had music. That was chase music. So they did have music that kind of changed, went along with things. It wasn't totally boring. It wasn't perfect. But at least they had some music to help you distract from it. Again, there was a plot. The plot was okay. I thought it was a reasonable plot. I mean, really, I thought it was reasonable. And I wasn't totally bummed out by it. But it was a very silly movie for 1967. Like many of the other movies we've seen before, Tom. This is N5DB, back to net.
Good evening. The time is 11 p.m.
All right, thank you, Bill. I think you hit all 3 rounds on that, but we'll come back to you on the next round. Tony, NT5TM, your take on the plot for our fine film this evening from KE5ICX.
Well, I feel sad, but I guess not too sad. I'm doubting my own mental abilities now because, you summarized the plot, and it makes sense when you summarized it, but when I watched it, perhaps because I just didn't care, I found the plot very hard to follow. Oh, look, it's not the real doctor. Oh, look, it's the James Bond whatever crime villain again. Hey, what's he want? Who knows? I don't care. So I found the plot hard to follow in part because I found it very unengaging. I didn't make much effort to pay attention to it, and so the plot was never appealing to me. I'll trash the movie and the music and the special effects later, but I guess I would have to say that I'm glad Bill enjoyed it, and I'm glad you could summarize it. I'm glad other people actually understood it. But perhaps because I didn't like it, I found it very confusing, and I was never just drawn in to care about the story. NT5TM.
Okay, well, thank you, Tony. Well, let me just interject this. The probability of all the things that happened for all of the doppelgangers, or, well, I guess the secret moles that were within the organization were so unbelievable that that's what confused you, that defied logic. Okay, next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, your thoughts on the plot from KE5ICX.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, Bill seemed to, actually have paid attention to what the plot was. Meanwhile, I was distracted. As is the case with many of these movies, I am engaged pretty decently for the first 10 or 15 minutes because, I'm trying to give it a chance. They made at least some kind of attempt at a moon landing sequence that was sort of based in, I guess, what was going on at the time. I appreciated their attempt at using proper procedural terminology and landing the rocket / moon lander. They didn't do a thing exactly like NASA was doing. It was more of an Elon Musk kind of a thing. But still, it seemed like they were going for something reasonably spacey, hard science fiction-y. And then they landed on the moon, and the spacesuits were okay, but then when they were implausibly lacking oxygen tanks and were kind of cheesy, a little bit more shaky there. And then the set for the moon looked like a Star Trek set. So things kind of started off okay, but then really went more and more cheesy. And then they got to the alien ship, which they discovered on the moon, and that's where, the cheese just, the moon seemed to literally be made of cheese at that point. And then it turned into, a kind of almost, what did I call it last night? The subplot between the astronaut and the lady, I call it a racy rom-com, because they had the banter, oh, I don't like you, but then, or you think you're superior to us because you're an alien, and, and then she just seems to be, full of herself, and her costume was obviously sexualized, and, and then the whole scene where she's changing clothes behind the curtain that shows her silhouette, and I thought, oh lordy, where is this going? So suddenly it went from, hey, this could be science fiction, to this is just a gratuitous, 60s, psychedelic, softcore something kind of movie, and they kind of got away from that. They just sort of hinted at it, and I thought it was going to go a little further in that direction, but it fortunately didn't go that far. But then they surprisingly went back to Earth rather quickly after that to find a treatment for leukemia or whatever, and then the stuff on Earth turned into kind of a James Bond sort of thing where I immediately got very confused because were flying, and I was having way too good of a time just thinking it was stupid. And thinking those astronaut guys were kind of full of themselves, and they had all these space gadgets that they were going to use to go get what they needed to get. I don't even know what they were looking for. I should have listened closer to Bill. I'm sorry, Bill, because you obviously really watched this and might have even taken notes. So I applaud you for your dedication to your craft of film critique. But anyway, it was stupid. It had a little promise, and it had some character to it as far as just the, it was cheesy special effects and all that, but it had a little bit. guys and the obvious Land Rover product placement. Everybody drove a Land Rover in this. And even when the guy was trying to get a car, he was, trying to buy a Land Rover. I thought that was weird. Weird, cheesy, special effects. And that's round 2, or round 3 rather. But, so, yeah, I just, the plot could have made sense if I hadn't been so distracted by all the cheese and the lack of, consistency about what they were trying to do here. They obviously had an attractive female lead, and they needed to, emphasize that, and, handsome guys playing astronauts, and, but yeah, it went from promising to just stupid, and I was glad when it was over in V5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia, and realizing that there is a problem is the first steps towards solving the problem. The fact that it was incomprehensible and you'd lost interest explains the incomprehensibility, and you recognize that. Your indifference to this fine film shows how you missed out on all the fineness of this fine film. So it's okay, now that we understand your indifference to fineness. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, what did you think of our fine film?
Well, at the risk of losing my Afterglow movie privileges for the year, which would be rather long because we just started the year, I kind of liked the movie. I know it was horrible, but it was so bad, it was good. I just loved it. Because it was so bad, I know this isn't music, but when the first notes of the beginning music, if that's what you want to call it, hit, I started thinking I could tell if this is going to be a good movie in 5 notes, 4 notes, 3 notes, 2 notes, and then I thought, what if this was the Gong Show? Somebody would gong it in the first few seconds. Anyway, it was the kind of typical plot, although, it was kind of different, and the one guy had leukemia, and I don't really know. Obviously, they cured all the diseases but that, and I think the other bill alluded to that, and that was kind of strange. And then they were going to get the doctor to help cure him, and you had this sinister guy. I didn't realize he had a dog, though, so I always appreciate the visual fill-ins that you guys give. And, of course, I miss all the costumes and all that, and so it's always fun to hear about that, and then all the old 50s launching stations and stuff. I couldn't tell. I need to go back and read. I thought it may have been made or released first in Germany, and so maybe that accounts for some of the way it looked, kind of very military, or what they thought it should be like. And I thought it was interesting, the banter between the 2 main characters, the man and the female alien, because there was a lot of stuff going on at that time on women's rights and things, and so that movie I think projected some of that. And so from a historical standpoint, again, having been a history major in college, I kind of enjoyed looking at that part of it. And yeah, it was interesting on the Morse code. I couldn't figure out that because they had voice and Morse code, so I couldn't figure out why both of those things are going on. But anyway, I enjoyed it. The plot was a little different. I think that some of the stuff we've seen, and as I said, it was so bad it was good, and I just laughed throughout the movie. So from the opening notes on. Anyway, back to net control, W5BLT.
Hey, thank you, Bill. So we've got so far 2 thumbs up, 2 thumbs down. Next is Brenda. Brenda, you get to break the tie. WB5OZL. What do you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
This is WB5OZL. Oh man, I had such a hard time following this plot. I read the synopsis on Wikipedia twice, and it just seems to be elusive. I didn't understand the whole point of it, and it was muddled and confusing, and I'm giving it a double thumbs down. Okay, I'm going to vote twice. Why not? Well, that still leaves us at a tie, doesn't it? Well, whatever. Boy, it's such a 60s movie. They just cranked them out, and they were worthless. You know, no thought into it. It's just banal, idiotic. There were a lot of good movies during that era, but this wasn't one of them. And it was just so obscure. You know, you couldn't figure it out, and after a while, you didn't really care. They didn't put any effort into this plot whatsoever. So, yeah, that's how I really feel. All right, I'll turn it back. WB5OZL.
Wow, that was quick. Okay, well, let me go ahead and before I make my comments, see if there's anyone else out there. I suspect there may be. Tonight's movie is Mission Stardust. Anyone else want to join us this evening? Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see our film, Mission Stardust from 1967?
Kilo Bravo 9, 0 Oscar Kilo, level 4 human, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
Okay, well, we picked up one of our usuals, KB9SOK. Sean, tell us about what you thought of the plot from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I actually didn't, I guess I do fall on the side of thinking this wasn't particularly good. Bill gave a very thorough explanation of the plot, and I did find the plot pretty simple as well. I really actually didn't have a problem following it. It wasn't the greatest plot ever, but it's better than a lot of the films we've watched. But unfortunately, everything that kind of went with it just wasn't great. And I agree with Virginia on the beginning of it. I actually thought there was some promise because it did seem like they were trying to somewhat be scientific with the launch, tried to make it feel somewhat realistic. But then, yeah, once they landed, the thing fell completely apart. The suits with no oxygen, and just from there on, the science was complete nonsense. As Bill mentioned about the materials that they were looking for, it's like they just kind of threw out any kind of effort after that, and then it was just kind of focused on this almost an Austin Powers in space in sort of a way. We had these outrageous villain that was just over the top. We had the aliens that were, somewhat kind of goofy. They were obviously didn't really care for us, but yet, this lady seems to instantly fall in love with our captain. Then it turned into almost kind of a classic type 60s sexist kind of film that started to kind of go there and kind of ended there. And it just, I think the basic plot actually wasn't horrible, but it's just all the stuff in between. Once again, the villains didn't need to be so unrealistic. The the Army instantly attacking this alien ship as soon as it landed. Once again, instead of trying to make contact, we see that time and time again with these movies from the 60s even till today. That hasn't changed. So yeah, what had a little bit of promise, it just kind of fell apart because they just didn't. It's like they had this basic outline of an ideal, but then the in-between stuff just didn't. It really just kind of screwed the plot over. So yeah, at the end, I found it disappointing. I did watch it all the way through because it was so odd. I wanted to see how it ended, and luckily it wasn't like crazy long or anything like that. But anyway, yeah, definitely kind of an odd one this week. And I'll send it back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean, and thanks for your comments there. Okay, my turn. I found the film hard to follow, although as it turns out, reading the little wiki part helps a bit, and then reading some of the reviews helps a bit. If I understand this correctly, of course, the criminal leader, Giovanni Rizzo, which was Mr. Archon, wanted, and for whatever reason, he was looking to get stuff out of the space program, and looking for eventually the diamonds. He discovered the diamonds and probably the technology part, although it's not really made very clear. What made it confusing is his plants, the people that he put in. Sure, you're a crime boss, you're going to put a plant, somebody, an insider, into the space program because, of course, they're going to have all sorts of high-value items that they're going to bring back from space. I don't know. And an astronaut, we're going to get him trained as an astronaut so he can fly spaceships. So, of course, crime bosses are going to have that. You're going to have a guy that they're going to recruit and be able to make all that stuff happen. So that was a part of it. And then he goes and he replaces his team of doctors for this, what's her name? Was it Crest? So that they could get in close on that. Highly improbable, those two things, and when it's done as a review, you're going, what's going on? I don't understand, because it doesn't follow any sort of logical progression. There's no motivation, it just happens to be convenient to the plot for these things to happen. So when you do these right turns, you're going, I don't understand, because there's no logical premise for any of this to happen. There's no setup for it to occur. In other words, the scripting of this story was terrible. So we got that. Also, by the way, to further complicate the issue, when they go in and they give the guy the Crest a blood transfusion and he gets better, this is done by non-doctors. These are the imposters. So that further makes it impossible to understand. So just throw that in there on top. Let's see here. I wrote some notes. Renting the car. I couldn't think of anything more boring than them going and renting a car rather than watching the guy in front of me in line get his Hertz automobile. It was almost that bad and that boring. I didn't understand that. Why on earth? And of course, going and this makes a lot of sense. You go and find the cheesiest, most dishonest guy in town to go rent a car from or to buy a car from. Just go to the rental place. You know, you got diamonds. Just go to the rental place and pick one up. That made no sense, as Bill would say. And then finally, you got a spaceship. It's flying. It can go anywhere. Why do we decide to land 500 miles away? Yes, I know we don't want anybody to know. 500 miles? Are you crazy? That's ridiculous. Go fly 50 miles or 20 miles or 5 miles. Go hide behind that rock over there. They do it in every other show and movie. 500 miles is a long distance. And they never really drove that. It wasn't a road trip or anything. It might have been better if it were a road trip. They could have done like a Starman thing. But no, we had to do that. And it took them forever to get there. Whereas, when they went back to the moon, it was just 5 minutes away. So, it's 5 minutes to the moon, and it's an hour and a half to get to this stupid destination where the doctor is. And of course we have Perry hitting on the nurse. Hello, nurse. So I don't know. It's just kind of all very strange. And it took forever. The pacing was glacially slow, except for the fight scenes, which were embarrassingly bad. So it had everything. Oh, and the supervillain, Mr. Archon. Now, I don't know if he was named after, the spelling is different, of course, but could it have been the Archons from the Gnosticism from the early Christian times, where they were the overlords and made sure that the spirits didn't leave or something like that? I think that's what the Archons are supposed to be, and maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Don't know enough about it, but that name came up, and his last name is the same as the Arcanite Society. Coincidence? I don't know. Very odd. All I can say is the writers were trapped, or they were on serious drugs when they wrote this thing. They didn't know what to do or how they were going to make it happen. I suspect that the budget dictated what they could and could not do, and they had spent all their money on their cardboard sets, so that might have had something to do with restricting the plot to strictly stuff outside in the East African plains, Serengeti or something. I don't know. Very odd. Okay, with that, are worth talking about, but we'll find out. So, Bill, N5BB, you've got a list of 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 main characters. Who would you like to talk about? Captain Flipper? Perry Roden? Thora? Crest? Mr. Archon? Doctors Sheridan and Manoli? You make the call from KE5 ICX.
Okay, Tom, this is N5BB. First, I'd like to clear up some of the plot things. I'm not trying to be negative, but it's obvious some of you weren't watching carefully, because all this stuff was set up right near the start of the movie, and you missed it. So the evil crime syndicate boss was shown up near the start of the movie. He's talking with his henchmen. He's telling you what's going to happen. He's telling you he's got an insider that's going to fix all this. He'll be able to get. But they didn't make it boring, because you didn't know who the insider was until later, when you learned it was that particular astronaut, because you saw him sending Morse code to the bad guys on the Earth. So they set all this up early on. So the plot is, again, really bad crime syndicate guy learns through some of his moles, probably mainly the guy he's got that's an astronaut. He's got in there his Confederate. He learns that the space program there has found this new, extremely useful energy source on the moon. And he says, I got to get some of that, or maybe all of it. And everybody says, they actually say this to him. The moon's a long way away. How are you going to get it from the moon? He says, I've got somebody on the inside. Well, he did. So again, the whole plot revolves around the crime syndicate guy trying to get this very expensive energy source metal from the moon. How is he going to do that? Well, he's got somebody on the inside. So this is all set up early in right up near the start of the movie. So when they get to, so in parallel with this, there's these aliens that are coming that land on the moon, and their spacecraft is damaged, and they need some material to fix it. And they notice that there are these humans coming toward the moon, and so they decide to try to get them to help them. So they cause their spacecraft to land on the far side of the moon by their spacecraft, so it can't be directly seen from the Earth, I guess, telescopes or anything else. And they try to enlist their help. That's the basic plot. And again, on the spacecraft, there's the senior scientist, Crest, who's old and turns out has leukemia, we find. The very beautiful Thora, the captain of the spacecraft, and some robots that they can do to do all the dirty work. When they get back to the Earth to try to fix the leukemia, the Confederate astronaut has sent via Morse code all this information to his buddies on the ground. They go over before the aliens get there. They go over and they kidnap the good doctor and his nurses, and they put in their little false team. And so when the aliens get over there, they get them back in, and they do the blood transfusion. That's done with the astronaut doctor. The astronaut doctor is working on that. That's why that worked, Tom. The astronaut doctor. Anyway, so I hope I helped set some of that up. It was all there, but you did have to be watching it, and obviously I was willing to ignore the cheese to see the plot, and I guess other people were not, which is valid. It's very valid. There's other movies that some of the movies I've seen, I just turn them off because I can't. It's just too cheesy. This was okay. And by the way, for Bill's knowledge, Thora, the alien in charge, kind of the commander, she's rather beautiful. She's kind of this Nordic kind of white hair. She's shapely in this bodysuit thing. And the first clothing she's wearing has these things that look on her chest, two of them, which is weird. She wasn't wearing that later. So my guess is they were filming it. Somebody complained that was over the top too much, and they decided to dress her in some slightly less sexy clothes later. Anyway, hopefully that cleared up the plot. And I agree, the Army guys in East Africa were very stupid, just like a lot of these science fiction movies in the 50s and 60s. The Army guys always shoot first and ask questions later. Yes, they were stupid. Okay. The Thora, the alien commander lady is in charge of the spacecraft and everything. She's really smart. She's really proficient. She's got a lot of secrets. She doesn't reveal them all up front. She really wants to get this chief scientist Crest healthy again, and she wants to fix her spacecraft. So I thought it was characterized very well. I thought the actress did a pretty good job. And they made her with a combination of, at some point, she was kind of brutal. She commanded the robots to do things like just disappear. And by the way, Bill, the way they got rid of people, they were typically the robots. There was a little kind of a lightning bolt that went out from the robots. And when it got to things like Jeeps or aircraft or humans, they disappeared. It's just like they vaporized. They literally disappeared. So that's how they got rid of them. And I thought she was I liked her. I thought it was a very strong character. And yes, was it a little cheesy? Of course. But one of their other goals that we found out was to kind of merge with other civilizations. I mean, sexually. So you would have thought they would have had more people on the spacecraft, but whatever. So anyway, so I liked the scientist. I think he acted like the alien scientist. He looked like the good alien scientist. And I liked Thora. I thought she did a good job. I thought the robots were stupid. So bad robots. Bad characterization on robots. Army guys are stupid. Bad characterization. I mean, they shouldn't have done it that way. The evil doctor was too much over the top. He's a Mike Myers. He's kind of not stroking his cat. He's stroking his dog, and he's plotting all these things, and he's very bad. But he did act like that. So you did think he was bad. So he acted okay. Who else? The nurses were smart but evil, and I can't say any of them were. I didn't think any of them were acting or characterized in a very. I didn't think they were stone-faced or unemotional. I thought they were going through and doing what they were supposed to be doing. I believed it. I believed they were nurses. I believed they were aliens. I believed the Army people were Army people. I believed they were doing stupid things. I believed the astronauts were both good and bad. So, I don't know. I believed it. Was it a goofy movie? Yes. But I think the characterization, and I think that the actors did a reasonable job at following through. So, for a B movie, I thought it was okay. Sorry about that, N5BB.
Oh, Bill, don't feel sorry for the fact that you just loved this film and no one else did. But that's okay. Okay, Tony, NT5TM, your comments on characterization.
Well, thank you, Bill, and thank you, Tom, and I may sneak in some round 3 comments in case I can't be here for that. We've got a bird who has stayed up way too late. I did like the character of Thora. I was impressed that a bunch of Italian filmmakers in the 60s were willing to let a woman be in command of a spaceship. She was probably the only character of the movie I noticed enough to enjoy, so that was neat. By and large, I couldn't remember who the other. I guess I could remember that Chris or whatever the male alien. But by and large, I found the humans almost interchangeable. You're a guy with a short haircut. You're a guy wearing khaki clothes. Whatever. Tom, I really enjoyed your comment. I can't believe they interrupted their science fiction action-adventure movie to haggle over the price of a used car. That made me think of Monty Python's The Life of Brian. You forgot to haggle. Why are you interrupting your movie with that? You silly people. And I just, unfortunately, although I do appreciate that some people liked that zany, trippy music and knew from the first note that it was going to be interesting, I had the opposite reaction. That style was not at all to my taste. I found it extremely distracting, squealy, and unpleasant. I didn't like the music. Oh, and the production design. Should I dignify it with that name? Round, shiny spacecraft with all the sophistication of a wiffle ball with some marbles in it for windows. Production design does not deserve that term. I didn't like that at all either. So, really, I liked Thora, I guess, but the whole movie as a whole was really not my thing. NT5TM.
Check on you later, see if you're still around. You may have given up. Virginia, NV5F, your comments, characterization, please.
Okay, thank you, Tom. First, I will give I'm going to give Bill in 5BB a lot of credit here. He paid attention to the movie and sees the complexities of it, which confounded the lot of us who watched it last night. And I dare say that much fun our Friday night movie romp on Facebook Messenger is, it's also rather distracting. And as much fun as that is, it might do us well to possibly watch the movie again, each on our own on Saturday, so that we can actually speak more intelligently about it and talk somewhere outside of the realm of, oh, this was just so dumb and cheesy that I couldn't tell what was going on, when really we were mostly just distracting each other on Messenger last night. So Bill makes a fair point. And that makes me feel like I need to probably do my due diligence in the future and possibly rewatch the movie again, maybe on Saturday morning with a big bowl of cereal or something. Of course, cereal might put me to sleep, but anyway, I digress. Characterization, there were some tropey but interesting relationships. I mean, you had the obvious, tensions between the handsome astronaut and the pretty alien lady, and you had the older, doctor character, and the bad guy, and the scientists, and all the military guys. There was a large breadth of different kinds of people in this movie, and I think for the most part you could tell people apart, and they were a little predictable, but fine. The acting seemed fine. It was a little bit of everything. There were times when, like I said from the beginning of it, I could see it more as a more earnest attempt at science fiction, and get a little bit less of the romance / action stuff. Maybe have a little less of that, but the characters were fine for what they were. The acting was fine for what it was, and overall it was okay in that department. So I'll keep it short because we're getting it's already 11:40ish here. So I'll leave it at that. NV5F.
NT5TM recheck.
Hey, Tony, go ahead.
Tom, I just wanted to check, did my last transmission in this round make it through? I wasn't sure if I doubled with you or you said I wasn't there or not.
I'm not sure. I heard your call sign. I think you were done. That was a while ago, but I think we heard everything. Do you sense that we didn't?
When I unkeyed, I heard you say, I think he's given up for the evening, so I was suddenly worried that I'd been transmitting a dead carrier or something.
I might have I don't know. There was at one point I wasn't quite sure if you were done, but I heard your call sign, and because there is a little bit of a delay even on all Starlink, but I thought we were clear, but maybe not. Did you want to repeat something and see if we heard it? Because I'm not now you've got me questioning.
No, I bet everyone heard me insult the production design and the music sufficiently. Anyway, NT5TM.
you did mention that, so I guess we got it all. Okay, well, I guess we're good. Let's see, next up is Bill, W5BLT, the other Bill. Bill, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Tom. I can't remember if I shared this before or not, but the first descriptive video movie I saw, I went back to my mom, and I said, you didn't describe that stuff for me when I was growing up as a kid, and she said you didn't need to know that. So my mom filtered stuff, but anyway, which consequently got me in trouble when I would show films, and now the family goes and looks at the ratings and everything, and I'm like, oh, well, okay. Anyway, the characters, Thora, I think that was her name, and the main astronaut, I liked them. I was going to save this for the third round, but I don't know how much time we'll have left. On Wikipedia, this is actually a German science fiction series. It sold 2 billion copies, started in 1961. It sold over 1 billion in Germany alone. It's a whole series of books. I'm trying to remember, I think they said 160 some. They're about 60 pages long. But so it kind of reminds me of maybe the equivalent of like a James Bond or science fiction, but it's one of the most popular science fiction, this Perry Rodin. So I love the characters. It was just cheesy. It was just corny, and it was, kind of, sometimes we watch some stuff that's really hard-hitting and apocalyptic and things like that, so I just thought this was kind of fun, and like the old Saturday matinee stuff, and that's kind of how I took it. So maybe that's why I didn't mind it as much. The one other thing that I'll say, because again, I know we're running short on time, but I think it was the doors opening when they were going into the spaceship or different places. They had that sound that reminded me of the movie in V, I think, when they were on the spaceship and the doors. I don't know if that was my imagination, but I didn't get a chance to go back and watch an episode from V from the 1980s, but that sound effect reminded me of that. Anyway, that's all I got. Again, I always appreciate everybody and doing this. And back to you, Tom, W5BLT.
All right, thank you, Bill. I'm not sure. I remember that 60-cycle hum thing. I thought maybe that's what you're talking about. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look. And to add to Virginia's comment, yeah, we have a tendency to distract each other when we start talking about the movie, so maybe we missed vital plot points, and that's where that happens. And yeah, that can happen. If it's a good film, we have a tendency to watch, and the conversation is relatively minimal because we're enjoying the film. When it's a terrible film, we have a tendency to fill in the blanks ourselves because we think the dialogue is dragging. But in this case, because of the overly complex plot or simplistic approach to a complex idea, I don't know. Maybe we missed it. Who knows? Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, characterization, please.
Well, you're right on, Tom. If it's a boring and stupid movie, we tend to talk more to entertain ourselves. Where if it's a good movie, we're riveted to the movie. Especially if it's a movie where you really have to pay attention, because it's moving so fast, and we don't get distracted by our own comments. But I have no problem with the characters. Some of them were kind of interesting and attractive. The spacesuits were not terribly good, or the costumes, but it was so 60s. The music was so 60s, and the characterization was as well. You know, sometimes jabs at women. You know, it did take a woman to do this, that kind of thing, which was so typical of the era. But I'm glad they let women get into strong positions there. So that was good. On the whole, they were all attractive people, and I have no problem with their acting. I thought that was pretty good. Of course, never heard of any of them since this was an Italian-made movie. So, but that's fine. They're probably famous somewhere, and their acting was just fine, I thought. But it's, you know, that only goes so far. If you've got a weak story, your acting is just going to get lost. And I thought, you know, it was a weak story. So they're climbing uphill on this. I like the Thor character. I just thought she was the most interesting of all the characters. All right, it is getting late, so I'm going to wrap it up here. WV5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, it's surprising, actually. We did talk about the film, and we're running short on time. Sean, KB9SOK, your thoughts on characterization?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, they were your typical stereotypes for that time. Once again, our astronauts started out, seemed like they were very professional, you know, like they were real astronauts, but then, you know, they started, you know, womanizing and all that as they, you know, even when they got onto the alien spaceship, didn't seem like, once again, they were real scientists or astronauts. Yeah, I think they would have took that situation a lot more serious. But this was typical for these type of movies. I think our aliens were, you know, I agree there about it. I think I can't remember her name, the lady in charge of the spaceship, I think she was the most interesting character. You know, and I think the guy running the show seemed, to me, more like maybe the character that he was trying to portray, or the characterization was correct. You know, obviously seemed very mature, very scientific. You know, really just kind of wanted peace. And but you know, the lady there, you know, for somebody supposed to be very, you know, advanced and, you know, evolution, she seemed to be awful, you know, I would almost say more primitive. You know, she wanted to just, you know, attack. So that I don't know that really matched what they were trying to portray there. And then, yeah, obviously, once again, the Army people, yeah, every movie, they make them look like idiots, and yeah, they seem to do that. I don't know why they don't think that Army, you know, people, there are some that are actually smart and think things through and actually strategize, but they seem to always portray this. I guess they needed a bad guy, but this one had two. They were fighting the Army, and of course fighting the super evil bad guy that wanted to steal the technology for himself, which is, you know, your typical Bond villain, over the top, carrying around the dog. You know, so very stereotypical. You know, I think the actors did find what they had to work with. You know, just wasn't the greatest script. So, but I think they did what they could with it. So, yeah, that's all I got on that round. See ya, back to net, KB9SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. My only comments on characterization is that I thought all of the military guys were typical dumb military guys that show up in every movie we ever watch, and I think they short shrift the military guys. So I'll say that. Laura was fine. I thought she was the most interesting character out of the bunch. Everybody else was the bore. Mr. Buttons, the guy with too many buttons on his. I don't know who did costumes for this thing, but they were a bit bizarro with the 500 buttons on this guy's jacket. It was like really weird. Okay, with that, I got my comments. We got 5 minutes left. If anybody's got any final comments, just come with your call sign, and I'll go in the order that you go. So, anything you want, the characters, anything that we've not covered, special effects, what have you. Please come with your call now.
N5BB.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta Whiskey, just listening.
Okay, John, K5JDW, he's just checking in to let us know he was out there. He's out in the garage. I think he probably went inside finally. And Bill, you get the final word, N5BB. Go ahead.
This is N5BB. Well, the special effects were very cheesy and cheap. So how many times do I have to complain? Rockets do not make sound in space. No sound. Don't do it. Just don't do it. But they're tempted, and they do it all the time, and they continue doing it. They really, again, we saw this on other TV shows and kind of made-for-TV movies around the 60s and 70s. How did they have something go away? Rather than having it blow it up, they had a overlay, and they just disabled the overlay. So it looks like it's blinking out of existence. And you've seen that quote, special effect, unquote, on many other things, especially all these, TV movies where something blinks and it disappears. And of course, all they're doing is they're overlaying two images and they're just cutting off one of them, either with a video combiner or literally putting them together optically and just blocking off one of the optical things to make something disappear. And it made it very cheap. It was effective, I guess, but they didn't explain how they could do that. It didn't look very scientific. It looked like kind of a transporter. They were transporting them to nowhere or something. It's the same as the transporter effect on Star Trek, Somebody kind of goes out of existence. Same thing here. I thought that was pretty cheesy. I thought the spacecraft was kind of interesting, although the control panel was pretty weird. Why do these people always, in these alien spacecrafts, they're huge, they're way too big inside, and they're standing at this control panel that's monstrous. Why? Why are they sitting down in some kind of seat with a few controls rather than a bunch of different weird controls? What did you think about the little control boxes? They were pretty cheaply made. They looked like somebody made them in an afternoon. Some ham made them. He went over and got a little Bud aluminum box and mounted a couple of buttons and lights on it with a little pull-up whip antenna. I thought those were really cheesy. They were cheaply produced, but it was par for the course back there. It was still stupid, though. You would have thought they would. At least Star Trek had a tricorder and a communicator that looked different. Now they look like things like flip phones and things, but back then they looked very modernistic. Not this thing. These little boxes they held was old technology. Didn't look very alien to me. What else? Oh, well, you talked about of course, Land Rovers were everywhere. When they went over to get, I thought it was really funny when they went over to get the vehicles. I think what happened is you noticed that somebody else came to them to ask them if they were looking for something, to buy something. So I think what happened is the the local, it may not have been the bad guys, but some of the local criminals, the gangs there, they saw these foreigners walking in, and they were going to go over and fleece them one way or the other. That's the whole thing there. But I thought it was really funny because they're walking over to where all the cars are. Did you look at the other cars they walked past?
Elvis?
They were like had no tires on them, or missing a headlight, or had cracked windshields. They all look like piles of junk, except for that Land Rover. All the rest of them were just complete piles of junk. So I thought that was very, very funny, actually. It's a little comic thing there. I guess that's it. Again, I had fun. It was a cheesy...
Good morning. The time is 12 a.m. Node 48902. Timeout.
Didn't do hardly anything else, but I thought she looked very commanding and in control, and she knew what she was going to do. She had a plan, and anyway, that made it interesting to me. Good night. This is N5BB. Happy New Year's. See you guys later.
All right, well, thank you, Bill. I do have two parting shots. One is I took some notes, and it was kind of interesting because in one case you're talking about sounds in space, which you always mention, but then I'll come back and tell you 2001 and then 2010 or 2010. 2001 did it right. 2010 had the sounds in space. There was a lot of that in it with the ignition on Discovery, but I thought it added to it. I don't mind it. It isn't bad. 2001 was the novelty in the whole thing, and I think Kubrick cleverly handled it as best could be done. The second thing I wanted to mention was you were talking about the cheesy device. Well, if you've looked at OpenSpot's Shark device, the latest one, that is a digital interface for the internet. It looks like a radio, but it looks like a cheap radio, a very cheap radio. It looks like one of those defensive devices we saw in the movie last night. It's that crummy. Ask any ham about it. You know how cranky they can be anyway, and they hate that thing. But I thought I'd mention that. Okay, next week's movie will be The Doomsday Machine from 1976. This one says spies discover that the Red Chinese have built a doomsday machine capable of destroying the surface of the Earth, and they plan to use it within a matter of days. So that's our movie for next week, Doomsday Machine from 1976. Okay, I'm going to try and stay awake and watch Visit to a Hostile Planet. That's the episode tonight where the Jupiter 2 when Lost in Space goes back to Earth. I think it went back 3 or 4 times in the 3rd season. Okay, see y'all later. This is KE5ICX clear.
Well, we're sending the icy weather, excuse me, not necessarily icy. We're sending the cold blast down to Utah. Comes through here tomorrow afternoon, and I'm driving to Austin Monday morning. It's supposed to be like 28 degrees or something up here. So there's a tiny possibility of a few snowflakes. 73 in 5BB clear.
Okay, and I have to chime in on sound in space. I'm with Tom. Kubrick pulled it off in 2001. Very few have pulled it off since, having no sound in space. It is in a much great science fiction, even From the Earth to the Moon by Tom Hanks and Apollo 13 and all of the Star Wars movies, and it's just something that we kind of need. I think the starkness of 2001 made it work, but I think we need to just accept the fact that most science fiction has sound in space. Off my soapbox. Good night, everyone. Happy New Year. 7-3 NV5F.
But I don't like it still. I like 2001 and 5BB clear. Good night, Virginia.
Interesting that, guys. I guess my pet peeve back in the olden days where when you'd have rockets with the flames would come out and go up, or the planes in space or the rockets in space would make bank turns. K5, JDW.